If you truly want to be in your feminine, you don't want to be with a man that isn't interested in you, because you're always going to be the one that is pulling more of the weight in the relationship than he is. And you'll never be able to rest in your femininity in a relationship where a man kind of needs to be pushed along. And you'll never have the feelings of being desired in a relationship if you're the one that is overgiving and overdoing in a relationship. What happens in our relationships when we overdo with men is that now a man is getting this message that I'm not good enough, I can't make her happy. And what he will do is now he starts to step back in the relationship. And so if we are overgiving and we are overdoing, essentially we're mothering him, we're emasculating him, and it does not give him this sense that I want to do more for you or I want to do more for the woman, because now we've essentially taken his role. It's very detrimental to also function in this way with men, because it sends a message to men that they are children, because essentially we're coddling them. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I wanted to discuss the importance of allowing a man to be a man. And essentially that means that we want to not overgive to men so much, and we want to take a step back, and why this is so important for you, your relationship, and also for the well-being of a man in the dynamic of a relationship. As a woman, we are so busy and inundated in today's society. We are sort of pushed more into our masculine energy than is necessary. I always talk about feminine energy as a complement to the masculine energy, whereas without the masculine energy or the healthy masculine energy prevalent in a woman is going to be mostly in her victim energy. And so we need a healthy dose of masculine energy. There's nothing wrong with masculine energy. In my books, I get into what it really means to be a true feminine woman. So make sure you read those books. But what's happened in our society is that we're being pushed to be overly masculine. Ideally, if you are a healthy woman, you're going to be more pronounced in your femininity, which does mean that there's the integration of both energies, but you're not going to be operating from a space of overfunctioning. When we are moving into this space of overfunctioning, and we've been taught in our society that we have to work hard, you have to hustle, you have to be very ambitious, you have to be competitive, what tends to happen is those beliefs get stored in us as a woman, and we tend to operate in this same way in a relationship with a man. This can be very detrimental to a relationship. For a man, this can be very detrimental because it takes away his purpose and mission in service to a woman. A man's main role in a relationship is to feel that he's winning with the woman, and he wants to feel that he's good enough. And if a woman is taking a man's role in the relationship, what men tend to receive is that maybe they're not as competent and maybe they're not as good enough. And what tends to happen when a woman is like giving this message to a man, and again, as women, we're not doing things intentionally. There's always a positive intent behind every negative behavior. People aren't inherently bad. It's trauma that most people have to endure as a child and into adulthood. And the trauma, if it's not addressed and it's not healed, and this is why I focus so much on inner work. Get the inner work course. There's 25 modules. It was a coaching program that I ran and that I've made pretty affordable so that all of you guys can start looking within. If we don't address the trauma is going to make us act out in unbecoming ways, and our behavior can tend to be negative, or it'll be perceived as negative because it's actually pushing the desire away. And so if we don't address the trauma, women in relationships will start to overfunction. And what happens with men is when they get the message that if we're overfunctioning, if a woman is overfunctioning, then I must not be competent. If I was competent, then she would rely on me and she would trust and she would receive. What happens in our relationships when we overdo with men is that now a man is getting this message that I'm not good enough, I can't make her happy. And what he will do is now he starts to step back in the relationship. What happens when a man steps back in a relationship is now a woman will step forward, which of course makes sense, because the more that a man steps back, the more that a woman wants to come forward, and she wants to try to make the relationship close again, because as women, we desire closeness, we desire connection. The feminine, and all of us have this component within us, even if it's dormant, is connection. We want to be close. This is also one of the reasons why we're trying so hard to make a man see us or make a man love us. It's because we want to be seen as women. So even if we're over functioning in our masculine, that deep feeling that we have as a woman, the femininity within us is going to desire closeness, which is why we're over functioning, because we're trying to get this need met from a man. With men, it's really important that we discipline ourselves and we do the healing work to not overfunction in the relationship. Because if we are desiring is true connection with a man, for him to make us feel loved and cherished, he needs to also feel that he's competent. And so if we are overgiving and we are overdoing, essentially we're mothering him, we're emasculating him, and it does not give him this sense that I want to do more for you or I want to do more for the woman, because now we've essentially taken his role. It's very detrimental to also function in this way with men because it sends a message to men that they are children, because essentially we're coddling them. And this is also very unhealthy. And if you're a mother, pay attention to this. If you have a son, if you are coddling your son, what I see tend to happen is that women will be harder in the relationship with their daughter and they will coddle the son. And when we do this, what happens is a man starts to also get used to this. So, different things can happen in a relationship with a man that's being coddled. But one of the things that can happen is he can become overly reliant on women to take care of him. If you're in a relationship with a man and you are overgiving and you are overfunctioning and you tend to see that he likes it, so he's not turned off by it, it actually makes him feel good. And even if you emasculate him, and emasculation is overgiving, overdoing, and being overly critical with him, if he doesn't like resent you for that, because what should happen is that if a man that's more in his healthy masculine, if a woman is sort of behaving in those ways, he's going to start resenting the woman and he's going to start pulling away. If a man is not doing that, and instead a man is adhering to your complaints and I guess you could say disrespect, that man is used to being coddled. And so he likes it. It kind of makes a man feel safe. And so in relationships, if we want there to be polarity, we need the healthy feminine and we need the healthy masculine. And in order for this to be a functioning, thriving relationship for a woman, it's really important to step back in the relationship, because this is going to tell you everything that you need to know also about his feelings for you. If you step back in a relationship and a man is not trying to close that gap in, you can read my books to go deeper into these concepts. But if a man is not trying to close the gap in, or he's not trying to make the relationship better or make you feel better, or even ask why you've taken a step back, there's evidence there now that he's showing you that he's just not that interested in you. And that also will help you to detach from the relationship. Because if you truly want to be in your feminine, you don't want to be with a man that isn't interested in you, because you're always going to be the one that is pulling more of the weight in the relationship than he is. And you'll never be able to rest in your femininity in a relationship where a man kind of needs to be pushed along. And you'll never have the feelings of being desired in a relationship if you're the one that is overgiving and overdoing in a relationship. You don't want to be in a relationship where you are the glue as a woman and that you are the one that is holding the relationship together. Ideally, it is two people that want to both make the relationship work, because there are always going to be challenges. For a healthy relationship, you always want the man to be the person that is going to fight for the relationship, because when it's the man that is going to fight for the relationship, a woman is always going to feel very safe and secure, and she's going to be able to show up in all of her feminine states. So all of her feminine states mean, sometimes she'll have rages, sometimes she'll be upset, sometimes she'll be depressed. She's going to be able to show up in all of who she is. And even if that upsets the man, it's not going to dim a man's attraction for a woman. And so this is why what I teach in terms of relationships, it's all about attraction and it's all about the polarity, because without the attraction, without the polarity, our relationship isn't going to be that fulfilling. We ultimately want to have a relationship that is fulfilling and that is growth oriented. And the way that we want to do that is we want to be in a relationship where there is an immense amount of attraction. A lot of relationships are not based on attraction and love, they're based on convenience. And if you're in a relationship where it's based on convenience, what you're going to find is you're not going to really find a pull towards your partner, not going to be a lot of sexual chemistry. So it's really important to make sure that you have that pull and that sexual attraction to the person that you're with, so that you can face life's challenges moving forward.
I want to continue to speak about absence and why absence is so important in a man's journey into falling in love with you. Now, men and women, as I always say, we're different and we also fall in love differently. Women will fall in love when they see consistency in a man and when they see that he is in his masculine frame, which means that over a period of time, he's consistent, he's moving things forward, he is strong, he is not triggered by her taking time with the relationship and with courtship, and in her naturally feeling good with him over a period of time. So a healthy feminine woman is going to take her time into falling in love with a man because she wants to see, is he really in his masculine? So how is he showing up in the relationship for her? That is how a woman starts to fall in love. And I go deeper in this in what men want. Men, on the other hand, fall in love in a completely different way. Again, men and women are different. The masculine and the feminine energies, although we complement each other, we are very different. And it's important to understand the differences between the masculine and the feminine, or a man and a woman, so that you can have passionate, fulfilling relationships. Now, absence is super important for a man to determine if a woman is the one for him. And without a certain level of absence or space in a relationship, a man is never going to know if you are really right for him. The reason for this is that men need a period of separation when they're with a woman that they love. And in that period of separation, what they determine to see if this is a woman that is for me or not for me is, are my feelings and thoughts going back to her? So am I thinking about her when I'm not with her? Am I missing her when I'm not with her? What is my life like without her? When men have this experience of being without the woman that they love, especially when men are immature in a relationship. So what will tend to happen is that a man will meet a good woman and he will maybe mess it up, let's say, because again, when you're dealing with the feminine and masculine dynamics, particularly, and when a man meets a good woman and a masculine man meets a good woman, he often doesn't know how to be in the relationship with her because, again, feminine women are very rare. And a lot of times, masculine men, especially when they're in their late 30s to 40s and upward, have had previous experiences with women that were not in their feminine. And so the relationship and the dynamic and also what they saw growing up is very different from, let's say, a woman that's in her feminine. And likely there will be a period of separation in these dynamics at some point because a good woman or a woman that's in her feminine energy is not going to want to be with a man child. She's not going to want to be with someone that is immature or not developed in his masculinity, or in a relationship where she, let's say, has to lead. And a woman that is like in her feminine, or let's say a good woman, is also a woman that is going to give chances and she's very reasonable. I go into this in Secrets of the Feminine Woman, so make sure you take a look at this book. At some point, what's going to happen is this woman, and again, she comes to the table with a lot. It's really important to do your inner work, which I always stress, because you can't fake being a good woman, right? Your energy, your aura, the way you carry yourself, what you feel about yourself, your beliefs, your values, all of that come from your inner work and your perception of self. And so you can't fake this, right? Because again, like, our behaviors are going to mimic what our beliefs are. And so if you actually don't feel good about yourself, you can't really fake it because your behaviors will mimic those of a lower value woman. Not to say that any of you are lower value, but your behaviors can mimic that way when you don't feel good about yourself. When you don't feel good about yourself, you might chase men, you might make them want to see you, you might rush courtship, behaviors that are coming from women that don't feel good about themselves. Now, when you're a good woman or a feminine woman, which is very rare, it's very rare in this world to find a good woman, right? A woman that is in her feminine energy and she brings a lot of value to the dynamic. So when a man meets this type of woman, because he doesn't really have a lot of experience in dealing with a woman that's in her feminine, because her behaviors are different, she shows up differently, and it might trigger men and it might feel very uncomfortable to a man, especially if a man is in his masculine energy, because he may be used to being with a woman that sort of took the lead, or if he's more an ego, he may be used to women that were okay with his egoic behaviors. At some point, if this man is with a good woman and she's a feminine woman and she brings a lot to the table and she's communicated to him like a lot of times what she needs in the dynamic and she doesn't see change, she's able to walk away. Now, this is so crucial in a man determining whether this woman is the one for me and if this is the woman that I want to, let's say, change for or mature for. Because when a man is no longer in the presence of a good woman, what tends to happen is he starts to go cuckoo. Let's say he starts to miss her, he starts to think about her, and he starts to have a whole slew of emotions that he needs to experience to determine if a woman is even right for him. So if he is with this woman and this woman doesn't want to be together, or she's always reactive and she's needy and insecure, and so she's demanding a lot from him, so she doesn't really bring anything to the table, she is a taker, let's say, what's going to happen is, even if she sets this boundary or she walks away or she creates space, the feeling he's going to have is relief. He's going to feel, I'm so happy that I don't have to deal with these headaches anymore. And he's not really going to miss her. So even if the attachment is there, so as humans, we do become attached to the things that we are around routinely, even if it's like negative in their experience, because as humans, we get comfortable with the things that we're around routinely. We're routine creatures. So even if there's a sense of, oh, I miss this person, it's not going to be enough for the man to want to fix things or to close the gap, because the primary feeling he's going to have when you show up in a low value way, let's say, is relief. He's going to feel, there were too many headaches in this relationship. She was taking a toll on my energy, and she's consistently like emotionally reactive. And no matter what I do, it's never good enough. And so the feeling he's going to have when he's not with you and in your absence is, I don't want to deal with this headache anymore. Thank God that this person is not in my life anymore. And eventually he will move on to date or meet someone else. But if you're a woman that actually made a difference in his life, you're a high value woman, let's say, you've done your inner work, you routinely put the attention back on yourself and not a relationship, what's going to happen is when you're not there, he's going to essentially go crazy. Let's say he's going to have a very hard time getting you out of his thoughts. His behaviors are going to be very different. So he might try to get your attention. He might try to message you. He might call you, and his efforts to be in touch with you are gradually going to increase. And so he's not going to want to be without you no matter what. So even if you get into a fight, you want to create space, and even if he's the one that messed up or whatnot, then his ego shows up and he gets defensive and reactive, he's still not going to want to create space with you. And so if you do that and you create space, or you say you don't want to speak with him, or you create a boundary, you're going to notice that right away he's going to be trying to fill that gap in, and he's going to call, and those efforts are going to increase. So if a man is okay to let you go, even when you get into a fight and you create a boundary and you don't hear from him, I hate to say this, but he's just not that interested in you, because a man that is interested in you, no matter what the situation is, he's not going to want a period of space with you at all. And so if there is a period of space, the reason for that is not because he's going to want that. That's because you want that as a woman. And in that space and in that absence, he is going to really be having a hard time. So he's not going to be able to sleep. He's going to be checking your socials all the time. He's going to be miserable. He's not going to be happy. He's going to feel feelings of anger, frustration, sadness. He's going to feel a whole host of feelings. And these feelings are really important for men, because these feelings to men signal that, wow, this woman is different. This woman is someone that I really want to be with, and I'm not really sure how to get her back or what I did. And these feelings also help a man examine himself. So when a woman is able to step back, when a man is not stepping up, let's say, or being the higher version of him, and let's say he's a man child or he's being immature, and a woman is able to step away, knowing she offers a lot to the table, what this creates in a man after the ego sort of settles down, because of course for men, their ego is going to be activated right away, and that's normal and healthy. So he's going to have like anger, frustration, etc., which is completely normal. But once those emotions have settled in and settled down, the subsequent feelings he's going to have is, and if this is if he really loves you, is, how can I fix this and how can I make this better? And he's going to really make an effort into making things better for you. He's really going to make an effort into fixing things with you and making you feel good in the relationship, because again, he's not going to want to lose you. He is not going to even know you are a woman worth fighting for unless he's not in your presence. And so in the presence of a woman, what can happen with men is, yes, I feel good with her. She's lighthearted, she's fun to be around, she checks me when I need to be checked, etc. All these things that I speak about in both of my books, because these are the things that masculine men particularly need. Masculine men, it's just very different. And I deal with the masculine feminine dynamics in relationships. So these relationships will be very passionate, and there's going to be a lot of struggle after the honeymoon phase, because a woman's stuff is going to come up, a man's stuff is going to come up. And if a man has not healed from his past, he's going to trigger or bring up a woman's stuff as well, right? And so these relationships are designed for growth and for soul expansion. They're super fulfilling, but they can be very hard and very tumultuous in the beginning. And it's really important to understand that with masculine energy men, sometimes you need to step away. Sometimes you need to walk away. Sometimes you need to check them. Sometimes you need to have a backbone, and it's not the right approach to speak to them in, let's say, a feminine, soft way, because they are going to trample all over you. And that's just not how it works with masculine energy men. Sometimes they need a firm kick in the butt. And what that is for you to step away. And in you stepping away is when he's going to really wake up and think, oh, shoot, this is a woman that I really can't live without. And I can't be immature with her. And I really have to step up my game to be with her. In your presence, he's going to feel good and happy and light and think the dynamic's going to feel good. But again, men take for granted what they have when it's around, right? It's only when that thing is not around that they start to assess, is this something that I want to continue to fight for? Is this something that I want to overcome my own stuff for to be with this woman? They don't necessarily experience this when they're in the moment with the woman, because when they're in the moment with the woman, they are very in the present and they're not necessarily thinking about the future. They sometimes need a kick in the bum to get to the future, right? And especially depending on the stage in the man's life. And so if a man has had previous experiences with women and those experiences with women maybe were not good or they were failures, a man is not necessarily going to want to put himself in that situation again, even if he doesn't want to lose you. So again, like his past trauma is going to come up. This again is very different when a man is younger, because again, when a man is much younger, he's driven by different needs. He might want to build a family. There's different drivers there. As we mature and we develop, our drivers start to change. And for men, especially men that have been in relationships and have experienced negative relationships with women, later on, they're going to need a little bit more of a push. And oftentimes it's when you're apart from him that he's going to recognize that. Now, I do not recommend trying to close in the gap for a man whatsoever when you are in space, because when you close in the gap for a man, he subconsciously or unconsciously perceives you as low value, because a high value woman is never going to do that. She's never going to fill in the role of a man. She's just never going to do that, because she knows if not this man, there's going to be a lineup of men that is going to want to be with her. And this is not out of arrogance, this is confidence. And when you do the inner work, you will have this belief about yourself. You will never try to close the gap with a man whatsoever. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to speak with me privately, definitely book an email session or book a call with me to work one-on-one with me, my private coaching. You have to have gone through my inner work course. There has to be a level of self-responsibility and accountability that I need to see when I work privately with someone. But if you have a specific situation and you need my guidance on it, because again, every situation is different. And so you want to take all the advice given with a grain of salt, because again, your situation can be very different. So if you need help with that, definitely the email session is the most affordable. It's $97, or you can book an hour session with me if you want to get deeper into it. Okay, my loves, I will see you on the next one, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to speak with me one-on-one, you can definitely book a session with me. If you have a quick question, you can book an email session with me. My ebooks and also the course is going to help you so much, gain so much awareness and knowledge into yourself. And the more that you do healing work on yourself, the better your relationships will be. See you in the next one.